Our lesson for today is the La Liga Filipina. A week after Rizal arrived in Manila on June 26, 1892, he met a varied group in the house of Doroteo Junco and there inaugurated the Liga Filipina. The association would die abruptly within 4 days with Rizal's arrest and exile. Where did the Liga come from? It pops up without warning, seemingly without any gestation phase, and yet it must have been important enough in Rizal's mind for him to want to inaugurate it very soon after his return to Manila. A manuscript survives describing the organization of the Liga. It contains its goals, its organizational structure, the duties and rights of its members and officers, notes on the investment of its funds, and general rules. Rizal claims he wrote the manuscript upon the request of Jose Maria Basa. Was the idea of the Liga Basa's? The consensus of historians is that the idea was Rizal's. Why does Rizal claim he wrote its organizational character upon Basa's instance, as though its father was Basa? One imagines a conversation between the two, describing as Rizal described the Liga, and Basa enthusiastically exclaiming, "Write it." But we are begging the question, why did the idea of La Liga Filipina occur to Rizal to begin with? By the time of the writing of the Fili, Rizal's low opinion of the expatriate Filipino youth in Spain, in particular, their lack of seriousness and political commitment, fractiousness, and excessive individualism, had been transformed into a sweeping indictment of the Filipinos' capacity for self-rule. But they had, by then, also given up on reforms and was now completely convinced that independence was the only goal left for his country. The fate of the Spanish Empire in the Americas and his awareness of Spain's own backwardness vis-a-vis more progressive European countries also of the conflict between the Philippines and Spain a distinct possibility. Thus, was set Rizal's fatal encounter with history, his eventual return to the Philippines. He was now a prisoner of the logic of the filibusterismo and was led from one conclusion to the next. If a nation was a civic community did not exist, then it had to be created, and obviously, there was only one place where this could be done. Still, this was not accurate to fate, but results enormous will at work. The idea that the Philippines was the arena of engagement was something that came to Rizal with increasingly forceful clarity. In July 1889, in that letter to Marcelo H. del Pilar asking for many copies of La Solidaridad to be sent to the Philippines, Rizal said, "Let us not forget that it is there where we ought to sow if we wish to harvest." The expatriate community, which in his Toast to Luna in Hidalgo of 1884 represented the country's progressive future, was now a source of disillusionment. The majority of our compatriots in Europe are afraid. They keep away from fire, and they are brave only so long as they are far from danger and in a peaceful country. Within a week of his arrival in Manila in June 1892, Rizal unveiled the Liga Filipina. The organization's declared purposes were as follows: to unite the whole archipelago into one compact, vigorous, and homogeneous body, mutual protection in every difficult situation and need, against every violence and injustice, development of education, agriculture, and commerce, and lastly, the study and implementation of reforms. Liga was designed for an educative role of instilling not ideas but habits and dispositions in its members. Other than its general purposes, the entity that Rizal envisioned did not articulate high-sounding principles as one would expect of political and civil organizations. Instead, the statutes were made up mostly of regulations designed to reshape relations between and among people. The Liga was the very mechanism by which Rizal proposed to hammer the Indio into the radical shape and form of a Filipino. Gone was his concern with liberal freedoms that would give free rein to human reason. On the contrary, a member is commanded to obey blindly and punctually all orders, and is preferential treatment to members in all his acts. In his daily transactions, should other things be equal, he should always favor a fellow member, and every violation of this article shall be severely punished. Also, a member who is able to help another in a difficult situation or danger refuse to do so, penalty shall be imposed on him equivalent at least to what the other has suffered. Upon admission, a member was to assume a new identity. In fact, he shall adopt a new name, with a view to making him an integral part of a community. In the Liga, members were expected to subordinate all personal interests to the collective good of the organization, in exchange for which the interests can expect not Rizal wanted was to relate the common life of the association to the individual, which is clearly implied by the motto Unus instar omni, or one is worth all. In the Liga, we encounter not only the champion of individual civil rights, but the exponent of political obligation. Other than desiring generally the study and implementation of reforms, and including the right to due process as among the rights of members, the statutes of the Liga, in fact, neither mentioned nor replied any other. Rather, after outlining the basic structure of the organization, it detailed first the duties and members, and then of the officers before treating the rights of the members. Of the 6 rights of the members, 5 of these pertain to the moral, material, and financial assistance each member can expect from the entirety of the organization, which merely corresponded to the duty of members to either come to the aid of or give preferential treatment to other members. These are the rights to the moral, material, and pecuniary aid of his council and of the Liga Filipina, to demand that all fellow members favor him in his business or profession so long as he offers the same guarantees as the others. In case of any difficult situation, grievance, or injustice, invoke the full assistance of the Liga Filipina to ask for capital to finance any business if funds are available in the treasury. And finally, from all the establishments of members directly supported by the Liga Filipina to ask for a discount on articles bought by him or services rendered to him. The members of the Liga thus entered into a kind of social contract, not unlike that described by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, where every man in giving himself to all gives himself to nobody, and as there is no associate over which he does not acquire the same right as he yields others over himself, he gains an equivalent for everything he loses, and an increase of force for the preservation of what he has. The Liga's goal of a compact, vigorous, and homogeneous civic body, where one is worth all, clearly paralleled the goal of Rousseau's social contract, where each of us put his person and all his power in common under the supreme direction of the general will, and in our corporate capacity, we receive each member as an indivisible part of the whole. Invoking Rousseau's general will crystallizes the deeper meaning of Rizal's Liga Filipina. This act of association creates a moral and collective body, receiving from this act its unity, its common identity, its life, and its will. The Liga, or more accurately, what it sought to create through its discipline, the civic body or community, was meant to ensure that, with independence, the slaves today do not become tyrants tomorrow. In Rousseau, the civic bond alone is the key to the working of the political machine. This alone legitimizes civil undertakings, which, around it, would be absurd, tyrannical, and liable to the most frightful abuses. The statutes of the Liga clearly implied that the only guarantee against tyranny is the alignment through civic habits and dispositions of the individual wills of the members toward the collective pursuit of the common good. Rousseau was clearly concerned with a similar problem, finding a form of association which will defend and protect with the whole common force the person and goods of each associate, and in which each, while uniting himself with all, may still obey himself alone and remain free as before. In a letter to his parents dated August 2, 1883, the young José Rizal described some monuments in and around Paris which he visited. He made special mention to the tombs of Voltaire and Rousseau, two key figures of the Enlightenment whom he considered fathers of modern ideas. He has been becoming a great admirer of Voltaire's irreverent pen and would eventually share in his obsession with eradicating superstition, fanaticism, and obscurantism. Rousseau's ideas, on the other hand, had yet to take real possession of him. Yet, as if a seeming portent of a bold intellectual journey he would soon undertake, he noted in his very letter the figure of a hand holding a torch emerging out of Rousseau's tomb. Aside from being inspired by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Rizal was also inspired by the rights of the so-called rights of man. Of course, it was written by Rousseau, and he also created a Tagalog translation of that rights of man. Not only that, he was also inspired by the Constitution of Cadiz, which created the Spanish Cortes. Here, the question is, why was the La Liga Filipina later on used as an evidence against Rizal in the case or the charges of illegal assembly? We could attribute one of the purposes of the Liga Filipina, which is to unite the whole archipelago into one compact, vigorous, and homogeneous body. Because in science, since Rizal took chemistry when he was in his early years, when you talk about the word homogeneous, it means there is no distinction. There is no Spaniard, nor there is no Filipino. So in other words, Rizal was advocating equality once and for all. And since he formed the La Liga Filipina, some notable members of the organization included Andres Bonifacio, Apolinario Mabini, Deodato Arellano, and some of the other core members of the Katipunan. After Rizal was exiled in Dapitan, the La Liga Filipina renamed itself as Cuerpo de Compromisarios, or in English, the Body of the Committed. That was the reform arm of the reformed La Liga Filipina, and the other half of its members went on to establish the historic secret organization known as the Kataas-Taasan Kagalang-galangang Katipunan ng Mga Anak ng Bayan, or KKKANB, because they believe that reforms are not enough to achieve the ideals of a nation, and instead it should be done by means of independence through revolution. So here, how did Rizal presented or reflected this humanism? So of course, the main focus of the La Liga was the development of an individual through education and commerce. That you cannot develop a country if you are not trained by means of business and by means of your own education. The Popular Council alone has control over its members because the organizational chart of the Liga Filipina was the one adopted later on by Katipunan. As well as the membership, the attendance, and the usage of pen names. And especially helping one another is also the key to the success of La Liga Filipina. Now, the question is, how valuable is the La Liga Filipina to you as a student, as a Filipino? And this ends our discussion. I hope you learned a lot from this discussion and follow the ideals of Rizal. Thank you very much.